Mary? A high-pitched voice reached my ears. No way. Oh, that's it. Long time no see, Mary. A man and a woman, waving their hands as they approached us while we were shopping. It was my sister Maya and my former fiance Mike. Maya! Why are you here? Oh, did I not tell you? This guy, he got transferred from over there. Living in a fancy condo nearby. Compared to you, you look kinda poor. While saying this, Maya looked my husband Neil up and down. From Maya's perspective, Neil, in his work clothes, might indeed seem that way. However, speaking of that condo, are you talking about that one in the mall and in front of the station? Oh, that is mine, actually. Nonchalantly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, Neil said. What did you just say? Well, if you're talking about a condo around here, that's the only one, right? Then it's mine. What do you mean? Exactly as I said. There was a plan to build on one of the lands we've owned for a long time, and it sold beyond our expectations. Thanks to that, the land value went up and the taxes are a nightmare. After saying this, Neil invited the two to our farm. As soon as we got in the car, he quickly made a phone call home. Hello, Mom? It's me. Yeah, I've finally caught a big one, so it's time to execute the plan. Apparently, something was happening without my knowledge. My name is Mary. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, married to Neil, who is 4 years my senior. Currently, I'm happily living with my family on a farm. However, my life before marrying my current husband was always about losing something. I was born in the middle of 3 sisters. My sister Maya has been cute since she was little, skilled with her hands, and quick-witted, the pride of our parents. Without much effort, she always had good grades and was the star in elementary and middle school. On the other hand, I had a plain face, very unlike Maya. And my grades were average. My mom always used to tell me, "You're so plain and unremarkable, there's no joy in dressing you up." She would then proceed to unconditionally buy new clothes for Maya alone, as much as she requested. Since I wasn't developing as well, I was always given Maya's hand-me-downs. I often heard from my classmates how flashy or ill-fitting my clothes were. I was frequently asked, "Why are you wearing something that doesn't suit you?" But I disliked saying it was all I had. Probably, my friends were told something by their parents because eventually they stopped commenting. As for studies, my dad often sighed and said to me, "Why don't you try to follow in your sister's footsteps a bit more with your studies?" Despite his words, from around upper elementary school, I wasn't just doing my homework but also thoroughly preparing and reviewing lessons. I was well aware of my limitations, which is why I tried to do what I could properly. Yet, that didn't mean I could get good grades right away. I grew up sighing a lot, and then it was time to think about further education. "You're only going up to high school," my dad declared flatly. "Why?" "Because Maya wants to go to a university in New York. You don't have great grades anyway, so it should be fine." The age difference between us was a problem. The expenses for both of us would come almost the same time. As a result, Maya went to the private school she wanted, and I ended up in public school all the way. Later, Maya wanted to go to a private university in downtown New York. That's a plane ride away. Not to mention the difference in living costs. Living alone in such a place. It meant that my parents had already decided to cut down on expenses for me. It might have even meant they wanted me to start working soon and contribute to the household. And my youngest sister, for years younger than me, Sally, often silently watched all this happen. Amidst a life filled with sighs, without much I wanted to do, I ended up working at a local agricultural cooperative right after high school graduation. I was basically an office worker. Moreover, it was a rural area, far from any hint of chic. Some parts still carried the vibe of the old era, while oddly enough, others were pretty high-tech. Dealing with people there was monotonous, but it suited me just fine. Maya would probably rather die than live there. Before I knew it, 7 years had flown by, and at the young age of 25, I was already considered a veteran in this workplace where people tended to marry young. That's when I unexpectedly met a man. At a mixer I was invited to by a younger coworker. I met Mike, a salesperson from a client company. We surprisingly hit it off and started dating soon after. Our relationship progressed unbelievably well, and he proposed in less than a year. We were planning to get married 6 months later. But as our wedding plans were advancing, Maya, who was supposed to be working for a company in the city after graduating from college, quit her job and came back home. I just couldn't stand that company anymore. Well, if you say so, it must be true. You must be tired, just take it easy for a while. And so, day after day, my parents gave Maya money to lounge around and took her out, spending their days in what seemed like pure enjoyment. Then, one day, it happened. What, you're getting married? Yes, that's right. I'll have to see what kind of guy he is for myself. With that, Maya smirked. You don't need to do that. Huh? You're saying you won't listen to your sister? Saying that, she grabbed my hair and pulled my cheek hard. In the end, Maya came to the wedding venue for discussions. There were many things to decide, but Mike seemed distracted that day. I had a bad feeling, and a few days later, Maya bluntly told me, Mike is going to be mine. But the wedding is already set, and the venue. As I protested, my parents sided with Maya. Oh, it just has to be Maya instead of you. Exactly, it doesn't change anything between the families, and we haven't sent out the invitations yet. I couldn't grasp what they were saying. Were they planning to use the wedding, for which I also paid half, for Maya and Mike instead? I confronted Mike. With unusual force and intensity. I'm sorry. But I have to take responsibility. It seemed Maya had made advances and he couldn't refuse. I was shocked to learn he was that kind of person, but I was even more unable to forgive Maya. Yet, being unable to forgive didn't mean I could do anything about it at the time. Above all, my parents were blatantly favoring Maya. I was out of options. Then you might as well throw it all away, said my sister, who had recently graduated from a local college. Mary, you don't need to stay here forever. Staying here, you'll just keep having things taken from you. Those words changed something in me. Right, there's no reason I have to stay here. Don't worry about me. I'm managing better than you think, she said, giving me a push. I immediately told my boss about the sudden cancellation of my wedding and discussed resigning. My boss was shocked and listened to the whole story up to that day. Then, instead of resigning, he suggested a transfer. My diligent work and ability to handle various local farmers too well to let go. I gratefully accepted the offer and moved out with just my belongings before their wedding. Living alone and starting at a new workplace, I finally felt like I could breathe freely away from that family. The city I moved to was slightly smaller than my hometown but was still a significant urban area here. Perhaps because I felt more at ease, I started socializing more with colleagues. And then, there was another mixer, but I was done with marriage. However, I went just to keep up appearances. This time, they specifically asked for you, a colleague said. The attendees were heirs to neighboring farms. The situation for farmers' wives seemed to be quite strict. That's where I met Neil, my current husband. I knew him only as a business contact. Encouraged by a colleague, I decided to date him, and Neil turned out to be a fun and generous person. And I visited his family's home several times. Wow, this is amazing. Well, it's pretty normal around here. They owned a vast land, half for livestock and half for crops. The family was large and very generous. They always served fresh and delicious food and were constantly smiling. They subtly asked why I always seemed bewildered by their close-knit family. I'm just surprised to see a family that gets along so well together. When I shared my past experiences with my parents and Maya as calmly as possible, they were outraged. Then, what's with them? The sister is one thing, but the guy and the parents too? Leaving them was the right choice. Exactly, so come stay with us. I had always felt guilty about being dumped by a man. But this generous family was genuinely angry at the unfairness of my parents, Maya and Mike. I immediately wondered if the invitation to come to our place was really all right. And somehow, I found myself agreeing without hesitation. Without even having time to wonder if it's okay to be a farmer's wife. When I called my parents to tell them about the marriage. Marrying into a farm? I'm too ashamed to even show my face. They refused to attend the ceremony out of embarrassment. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law snatched the phone from me and declared, "We don't need anything to do with that family. Mary is going to be our daughter-in-law," with refreshing vigor. "What's with those people?" "Really, Mary, you don't have to do anything with them anymore. I've been sending them money, but I wonder if they'll say something if I stop." "You were doing that?" My in-laws were a mix of astonishment and anger, nodding in agreement as if they had made a decision. My sister contacted me to let me know when the wedding was set. In the end, she was the only one from my family who attended. When she got married, I made sure to avoid my parents and went to celebrate her wedding. By the way, I continued working at the cooperative for a while after getting married. Taking up farming work right away was out of the question, Neil and my in-laws told me. "You don't have the same physical strength as us. It's better if you do work that suits you." My presence at the cooperative had apparently made the work flow smoother. Still, that phase of my life came to an end rather quickly. I had one child. And then a year later, another one. With the pace at which we were having children, I left my job to focus on raising the kids, household chores, and helping with the finances. Farm life means early mornings and late nights, but having someone always around made it much easier than the solo parenting you often hear about in the city. And the food, always delicious. We cooked in large quantities, and everything from the vegetables to the milk was incredibly tasty. The kids ate well and played hard, growing up freely alongside their cousins from Neil's younger brother's family. Neil was something of a leader among the young people in the area, so I started attending their gatherings too. Without being compared to anyone and out of my parents' sight, I finally felt truly happy. Then one day, encouraged by my in-laws, Neil and I went shopping at the mall, just the two of us for the first time in a while. "Really, is that okay? We have some things we want you to pick up," they said, probably knowing we rarely got time alone together. Just experiencing this family's kindness was a relief in itself. We leisurely drove to the mall, reaching an area that could be considered downtown. As we filled 2 carts with requested items and more, strolling through the spacious mall and chatting. "Mary?" A high voice reached my ears. "No way." "Oh, yes. Long time no see, Mary." A man and a woman, waving as they approached us. "Maya," I murmured softly, gripping the cart's handle tightly. "Hey, long time no see." Beside me was Mike, though he seemed to have aged quite a bit. "Why are you here?" "Oh, didn't I tell you? This guy got transferred here. Living in a fancy condo nearby. Compared to you, you look kinda poor." While saying this, Maya looked Neil over from head to toe. Indeed, from Maya's perspective, Neil in his work clothes might seem that way. And here I am, just in my everyday clothes. But then, speaking of condo, are you talking about that one between this mall and the station? Neil suddenly spoke up. "Yes, that one. It's very popular with people from out of town now, and we had to wait to get a place there. Of course, it's none of your concern, being from a farm out in the sticks." "Oh, that condo is actually mine," Neil said nonchalantly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "What did you just say?" "Well, if you're talking about a condo around here, that's the only one, right? Then it's mine." "What do you mean?" "Exactly as I said. There was a plan for one of the lands we've owned for a long time, and when we built it, it sold beyond our expectations. Thanks to that, the land value shot up, and the taxes are a nightmare." "Taxes?" I remember encountering some unusually high property taxes while helping with the accounting. I had wondered why, given that the taxes around our area aren't usually that significant.
Is that so?
Yes, it is. Would you like to come over to our place? I turned to Neil, surprised.
Are you sure?
Then Maya's demeanor changed.
Hey, it's rude to barge in like that, isn't it? It's rude not to accept their invitation after they've asked us so nicely.
Shopping was abruptly paused, and we decided to drive to each other's places. Back at the car, Neil called home as soon as he sat in the driver's seat.
Hey, Mom?
It's me.
Yeah, we finally caught a big one, so it's time to execute the plan.
What was he talking about? After saying just that, Neil ended the call.
A plan?
Yeah.
Well, we've had our own thoughts about things.
I had no idea you owned a condo.
Well, it's sort of like insurance, you know?
Neil explained to me.
Even places like ours can have a hard time with farming, depending on nature. And our family happened to own that land in the area for generations.
So you built a condo there?
Well, kind of half and half. Not all of it. For people coming from outside, the view is incredibly appealing.
That much was true. Even if the view was just fields and mountains, their vastness made each season a sight to behold.
For those with money from outside, it must be nice.
Would you want to live there? I immediately shook my head.
I like our current home best. Everyone's here.
Me too. With that, we hurried back home. During the drive, Neil shared a surprising plan with me.
Can we really do that? You know about our family's unity, right? And we're good at following through with plans.
That was true. But still. Watching Maya's car follow us in the rearview mirror, I wondered if it would really work. When we arrived home, my in-laws greeted us with, "Oh, welcome," in their usual, even warmer smiles for the sister and her husband.
Is it okay to take time off now?
At this hour, there should still be work in the fields and with the cows.
It's fine. We knew we had important guests coming.
Maya, the guest in question, looked around the house as soon as she entered. Probably surprised by its size. It is indeed spacious. There are many people living here. And multiple households.
Well, I've only met your sister before. I had no idea you had such a beautiful sister.
My father-in-law said with a hearty laugh. While that was happening, I was in the kitchen preparing something to serve our guests.
It's better if Mary doesn't come out there.
Huh?
Just watch from here for a while,
she suggested, pointing to a chair in the kitchen. Wondering what she meant, I sat as told and watched the living room scene. At the low table, my father-in-law and Neil were seated, offering the visiting couple, "We don't have much," sweet potatoes and potato cakes that had been prepared in advance. From the spot my mother-in-law showed me, I could see everything clearly. Yet I was out of sight from them. Opening a beer, my father-in-law mentioned, "So I hear you're living in our apartment." Yes. Oh, speaking of the apartment. He signaled Neil with a look.
Just a moment,
Neil said, retrieving an envelope from the living room cabinet.
There's something we need to show you, or rather, something for you to see. What would that be?
Mike tilted his head, puzzled.
This is.
Neil handed him a large document envelope, from which Mike started to pull out papers but stopped. Instead, he pulled out a bunch of photos mounted on album pages.
This is.
Mike's face tensed up.
Yeah, we got a call from the building manager saying the security cameras caught some suspicious people lately. When we got the data, it looked familiar, so we did a little digging.
Mike silently flipped through the album pages, eventually dropping them in shock.
What the hell? Maya, who is this?
In a groaning voice, Mike turned to Maya, seeking answers. As I wondered what was going on, my mother-in-law silently tapped my shoulder and handed me the stack of photos.
What?
I almost shouted out loud and instinctively covered my mouth with my hand. What I saw were photos of Maya inviting an unknown man into her room, the two of them visible through a window, entering a hotel in broad daylight and later coming out separately, among other things.
How do you have these?
It's a secret, my mother-in-law said, clearly amused. Then, looking back into the living room, I saw Mike glaring at Maya with an incredulous look.
Have you been saying we don't need kids yet because you wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing? That's not me, it's a lie.
Well, we've confirmed with the building manager that you said you had business with your sister-in-law.
Neil pressed on. Then, what about these other photos?
Well, that's the thing. Cheating is just not right, my father-in-law said casually. After taking your sister's man, do you still want other men? How old are you, anyway? Let's see. She's 3 years older, Mary mentioned.
Mary set this up.
That's not the point, Neil said, as Mike tried to return the envelope. Oh, you can keep that. There might be some documents in there you'll need.
What?
Mike looked inside again and pulled out a large piece of paper. Indeed, this might be necessary.
Wait, a divorce paper? Just like that? What?
In a panic, Maya faced Mike, who began speaking in a low, steady voice. You told me to take responsibility, remember? You said you missed your period. I thought I had gotten you pregnant, so I decided to marry you. But what now?
What do you mean?
It seems I had relations with you in a drunken stupor. I don't remember it, but there was evidence. So, considering what followed, I thought I should take responsibility. But you weren't pregnant, and ever since then, you keep saying you don't want kids now. How old are we again? Round it up, we're almost 40, right?
I'm only 35. Don't say such awful things.
I believed you when you said you wanted to raise just one child carefully. That's why I worked hard, improved my sales performance, got transferred, and even got that apartment. You nagged me until we got a spot and took out a loan to buy it. Yet, you always complain about it being on a low floor, always, always, always. I hadn't known she had been saying that. I'm tired of it all, Neil said, and swiftly pulling out a pen, Mike began to fill out the divorce papers.
Wait, what are you doing?
Remember the wedding? Your parents did whatever they wanted, making us look like a family of fools. No one came, not even my parents. I hadn't known that happened. To this day, my dad and mom haven't forgiven me. You were happy there was no trouble with your in-laws. Oh, so you've been such an unfilial child. That must have been tough. I was even told not to come to my brother's wedding. Mike said this with a contorted face, looking older perhaps due to the stress. I've had enough of this situation. Right, Maya? You're tired of me too, aren't you, given the circumstances?
That's not true. I can't live without you.
Because you haven't worked since we got married. But I don't care anymore. He signed on the divorce papers and thrust them in front of Maya. Here.
I don't want to.
If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm going home. By the way, this envelope is from a detective agency, right? Yes. We thoroughly investigated the safety of the apartment we own. Solid evidence. Thank you, Mike said, nodding slightly. Let me know the costs later. I'll pay in full. And Maya, I'll be seeking alimony from you.
I don't have that kind of money.
Faced with the blunt reality of financial demands, Maya was thrown into disarray. You could always go back to your hometown and easily make money off men, right? I'm busy from now on, so I'm heading back.
Going back? What am I supposed to do?
Apologize and ask your sister for help. With that, Mike picked up the envelope and stood up to leave. He was glancing at me briefly.
Wait a minute.
Maya scrambled to her feet and tried to follow Mike out. But she couldn't keep up with Mike, who was seriously picking up the pace. We quietly followed them outside.
Wait! Don't leave me behind!
Perhaps due to a lack of exercise or her shoes, Maya tripped and fell. Somehow, she managed to get up and tried to continue the chase.
Ouch! Huh? Where's my car?
It was then Mike raised his voice. Then,
Oh, if you're looking for that car, it was in the way of the entrance, so I had it moved.
a carefree voice called out from a distance, accompanied by the sound of machinery. It was Neil's brother on a tractor.
Hey! Where is it now?
Over there. He pointed in a direction a few hundred meters away where their car was parked. Mike headed towards it with long strides, visibly frustrated. Maya breathlessly tried to keep up. Then, it happened. Our dogs ran towards Maya.
What's with these dogs?
Sorry, they're just really friendly towards new guests. Neil casually came outside and raised his voice. If you try to run away awkwardly, they'll just chase you more. But it seems like Maya didn't hear Neil's warning.
No, stop, please.
I don't think Maya necessarily disliked dogs. But she might not have been immune to dogs that run around outside. She hated getting dirty. And our dogs, always running around the farm, are full of energy.
Hey you! Mike! Help me!
Mike glanced back briefly but then turned and continued walking briskly towards his car. The dogs, barking joyfully, kept approaching Maya. Well, that figures. Even dogs approaching happily can seem like monsters to those who are not fond of them. And I, watching all this from a distance.
No! Stop!
As Maya tripped over her feet trying to change direction and move forward. She fell hard and screamed from the bottom of her heart.
What is this? Ugh, it smells.
She had landed in a pile of fluffy cow manure compost. Still warm from the fermentation process. Oh, are you all right? Came the leisurely voice of Neil's brother. As two dogs climbed on top of the fallen Maya, licking her face. But Maya seemed too dazed to react. Understandably so. Dressed up for going out, she had plunged headfirst into the compost, covering herself from head to toe. It's hard to find a spot on her not smeared with manure. The dogs, undeterred, continued to play and rub against Maya, barking and woofing.
Darn it! No choice then.
Seeing Maya in a daze, Mike, though frustrated, managed to get the car closer.
Let's go. Don't cause any more trouble for this household.
Even Mike couldn't just watch silently Maya's miserable state. He grabbed a part of Maya's clothing that wasn't dirty and threw her into the back seat of the car.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't want you sitting next to me. But it'll be trouble later on.
Watching from a distance, we half sympathized with them as Mike nodded to us before driving away. That evening, we received a call from the apartment's building manager.
That smell was terrible.
That's unfortunate. Please make sure to charge for the full house cleaning.
Of course. Even though this area is known for livestock farming, this place near the station is populated by people not accustomed to it. The residents were in an uproar today. It wasn't just the entrance and hallways, the parking lot was also affected by the smell.
Listening on speaker mode, I caught Neil's smirk and felt a mix of amusement and relief. Honestly, living in this environment, I'd forgotten that appearing covered in compost in the middle of the city would indeed be a terrible sight. Especially for Maya, who prides herself on her appearance.
Especially the complaints from the upper floors are severe. We'll address it as quickly as possible.
Right.
Oh, that couple is probably going to divorce, so addressing it quickly might also help push that along. Indeed. It would be better for us if they moved out.
When we hung up, the family around me gave thumbs up as if to say, good job. It seemed this had been a long setup. Apparently, their moving into the condo was guided by our family. In this region, companies are somehow related to agriculture. And farmers keep in touch. My current family, knowing my situation as a bride who came to a farming family, had been checking on my sister and parents, who had treated me poorly. They had circulated information about the condo being available on the second floor, used and cheap. Knowing Maya would jump at the word condo.
Well, we didn't know when we'd meet again.
Neil explained to me.
So, you were planning to execute this if we met again?
That's the idea, the family said, smiling warmly at me. The dogs that had come to the veranda also barked in agreement. Oh, these people. I just had to laugh. Later on, I heard from Sally that Maya was officially getting divorced. It was a mess. Sally reported to me with a hearty laugh. It turns out Sally and her husband are now running the family home that Maya left when she got married. The wedding they had, influenced by those two, significantly tarnished our parents' reputation. Sally took advantage of that situation, apologizing for our no-good parents to win over the community and took control of the household. Then Maya, following her affair and subsequent divorce, had the audacity to try and come back. No way she's coming back into this house. After all the effort to get our parents in line, we can't just let a parasite back in. Sally maintained a firm stance publicly. Attitude really is everything, huh? So, what happened to Maya? I don't know. She should pay her own alimony, right? Oh, and apparently, Maya left her last job because she couldn't do the work and there were some inappropriate relationships. That was news to me. And after being a stay-at-home wife with a gap in her resume, plus now a divorce due to an affair? Geez, what kind of job can she even get? Maybe something in the night industry? Though, that might actually suit her. Sally. But Mike had said the same thing. You know, Mary, I used to get so irritated watching her. But really, with parents and a sister like that, it was inevitable. Yeah. Right? That's why I learned from them what not to do early on. Now, I've got control of the household. That made sense to me. You can relax from now on. Forget about us and just enjoy being pampered and happy over there. Yeah, thanks. I'll come visit you next time. Okay, I'll be waiting. Almost a year later. As promised, though a bit delayed, Sally visited our home. Congratulations on the third child, sis. Yes, since then, I had given birth to a third child. Today was a celebration for that. Thank you. I heard you're expecting your second? Yep. We're stopping at 2, but are you planning to have more? Yeah. Here, kids can grow up without any bias, freely. Indeed, the older kids were taking care of the younger ones, and the younger ones were always looking for something they could do. I was a little worried I might raise them like my parents did. But with this place and this family, I believed we could be happy without those concerns. That's what I thought.